Hello. My entire computer catastrophically crashed yesterday during Xenoblade, so... Good thing? This is why I mainly play on consoles. Why'd shit like that? Oh well. Can't hope it doesn't do it again. Anyway, new case.
I begin to think, Wilson, said Sholmes, turning his head languidly in my direction, that there is more to this case than that which we have observed. Indeed, that there may be another part to this story that we are yet to discover. His eyes wandered, following the steam rising from his cup of herbal tea, leading him to the distant memory of that snowy evening. To the young lady collapsed on the pavement along Briar Road, and to the knife in her back. Lit in the soft glow of gas lamps, a most extraordinary scene had been set. And under the cover of a light fog, the curtain had risen silently on the insoluble mystery of our invisible killer.
Did you? Yeah. Blech. Clear my throat.
Did you sleep last night, Mr. Naruto?
No, not at all.
It was an enormous hotel, wasn't it? The rooms were so luxurious, I felt like we were staying in a palace. With all the gaslights twinkling, it was brighter than day even in the middle of the night.
What about the enormous beds? After my time on the SS Briar, I wasn't going to waste a single inch of that space. Spent the entire night rolling from one side of the mattress to the other.
Oh yes, it really was the sort of night you can only dream of normally. Except, when I learnt that we owe £3 for the rooms, that dream quickly turned into a nightmare.
Sorry about that. The building was so impressive and the entrance so inviting, I just wandered in without thinking.
In a lodging house in Japan, that sum of money would put a roof over your head for a whole year. I did try, but I'm afraid I couldn't help my tears when we were presented with the bill.
I really am sorry.
Well, never mind. We must find some more affordable lodgings straight away, though. If we're not careful, our entire stipend will be used up in 10 days or less.
London is a scary place. Chief Justice, good morning to you at this early hour. Oh, yes, well...
Good morning to you, Lord Chief Justice. We have come to report on the outcome of the trial at the Old Bailey yesterday.
Sasano-san is amazing. She doesn't bat an eyelid, even in the presence of the imposing Lord Strongheart. Yes, I believe you had a very comprehensive initiation into the British courtroom practices. Oh, yes. It was very eye-opening. Thank you.
And in accordance with your instructions, Lord Strongheart, Mr. Naruto performed his duty to the end.
Yes, I've already been appraised of events. You conducted a remarkable defense. You may consider the test passed. Oh. No longer are you a student from the Empire of Japan. You may henceforth claim to be a fully fledged lawyer. My country is delighted to welcome young talent from such a remote eastern land. Thank you very much. So I'm a lawyer now. Now, in view of your new appointment, I have a fresh case in mind for you. I'd like you to take it on once. I trust that won't be a problem.
Another case? Already?
Nothing trains a lawyer better than practical experience. I'm sure. I don't sense that dissatisfaction, do I?
It's just that yesterday's trial ended unusually. Haven't quite come to terms with it.
What's to come to terms with? The man was cleared. What more were you hoping for? The culpability of the defendant has not, at the present time, been established by this court. Consequently, the jury will not be required to proffer judgment.
Well, Lord Van Zeeks, it's been a pleasure, so it has. And as for you, my dear fella, I couldn't have asked for a better defense. Just can't help wondering if Mr. McGilded really was innocent. Mr. Naruhodo. It's just that I never managed to ascertain the truth. And then the trial ended.
Oh, you needn't let it trouble you for a second longer.
Sorry? What do you mean, Lord Strongheart?
Magnus McGilded passed away immediately following the trial.
No! What? Mr. McGilded is... dead?
I have 19 minutes and 41 seconds until my next engagement. Time enough to talk.
I don't understand. What happened? How can he be dead?
After the trial concluded yesterday, there was a great commotion in the Old Bailey. As you'll presumably recall, an omnibus had been wheeled into the courtroom.
Yes, of course. That was the scene of the crime which Mr. McGilded had been accused of.
Precisely. Well, while the bailiff's attention was diverted by some other matter, the omnibus went up in flames.
No. How could such a thing have happened?
That is being investigated as we speak, but already. The police have identified a corpse found inside the charred shell of the carriage as that of McGilded.
That's awful.
The man must have slipped inside whilst the bailiff's attentions were elsewhere.
The bailiff really needs to pay more attention. And how could that have happened?
That is also being investigated as we speak.
Thinking back now, immediately after the trial, Mr. McGilded did mention going back into the courtroom to look at the omnibus. Well, I must be making tracks now. It is time for the inspection.
Sorry, what inspection?
They're going to be examining the omnibus again, so I'm told. Asked if I could be present for it myself.
An inspection of the omnibus? Not to my knowledge. I don't believe Scotland Yard had any intention of re-examining the carriage.
But then who was Mr. McGilded talking about?
Never mind that now. The Yard is making a thorough investigation. The matter is no longer any concern of yours. Leave it to the police.
Mr. McGilded.
So, how did you find your first taste of our country's Supreme Court?
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, it was... wow. Mr. Naruhodo means that the whole experience was steeped in the solemnity of Great Britain's long history. It's really a world apart from our own judicial system in Japan, which is only a few short decades old.
Oh, Suzuki-san is such a way with words.
And you seem to have a way of failing to find the right ones.
The judicial system here is the most advanced in the world. Learn all you can.
Most advanced in the world, is it?
It was fortunate that your very first trial was a simple affair.
Simple? That was simple?
As I believe I mentioned yesterday morning, it was a trial you couldn't lose.
I don't mean to be contrary, Lord Strongheart, but the case was anything but simple.
The circumstances of the case were so incriminating. I was stunned when I first heard them. In fact, I'm still finding it hard to believe that we managed to get a favourable verdict.
Is something funny?
No, my apologies. However, the fact is that you did receive the not guilty verdict you set out to achieve. And that can only be attributed to exceptional talent, wouldn't you agree?
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, never mind. You exceeded my expectations, I freely admit. That much at least is an undeniable truth. Which is precisely why I prepared the new case for you that I mentioned before.
What's going on? What was he going to say before? Could you perhaps give us some more details about the new case you mentioned?
Don't tell me it's a murder and the trial starts in 10 minutes? Don't worry, it's nothing so alarming or quite so urgent as your last assignment. In fact, this case is completely different.
Oh, I see. Did he just read my mind?
And that is to say, no one has died, as yet. And the trial will not be today. There is plenty of time to research the case thoroughly. 23 hours, 43 minutes and 19 seconds to be precise.
So the trial's tomorrow then. Is everything alright?
Oh yes, I'm just a little confused, that's all. Yesterday's trial was...
oh, it's got me wondering if I'm really cut out for being a lawyer. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo.
I don't know if I could face standing in that courtroom again after Mr. McGilded's trial. Ah yes, I nearly forgot. There is one similarity with yesterday's case. Once again, there is currently no one left to advocate for the defense.
Oh.
If the situation remains unchanged, the trial will start tomorrow with the defendant unrepresented. And if that happens, I need not remind you of the inevitable outcome.
The most terrible end awaits the defendant.
Yes, that's right.
Here we go again.
Your time is up. You will have to excuse me. I would advise you to begin making preparations for tomorrow's trial. After all, the clock is ever ticking. There is now but 23 hours. 26 minutes and 39 seconds until the court stirs. Sits. There.
Last time you mentioned the 23 hours, you said there was plenty of time.
And one more thing, Mr. Naruhodo. There is something I should like to ask you.
Oh, what's that?
Yesterday, you remarked upon something. That you intend to see through the will of your late compatriot, Mr. Asogi. I would be interested to hear what exactly you mean by that. Inside 34 seconds.
Oh, well, Isma always used to say, you see, that he wanted to learn how the greatest justice system in the world works so he could change ours in Japan. Now that he's gone, I'd like to work towards that myself. And there's another thing. Oh.
Another thing. Continue.
On the way here on the steamship, he said something to me. And it's something very important that I have to do.
Something very important. And what exactly would that be?
He never had a chance to tell me. I suppose he would have done if he'd even made it.
You're out of time. Well, thank you for an enlightening discussion.
Mr. Naruhodo, what's all this about? Mr. Asogi never once mentioned anything of the sort to me.
I urge you both to focus your attentions on the matter at hand. I've taken the liberty of summoning the police inspector in charge of the case. He'll be able to appraise you with the details.
When has he been there?
So, I wish you the best of luck, and bid you farewell.
There's something very important that I have to do. Kazuma-sama, what did you mean?
Wish I knew, but honestly, he never told me. Anyway, we better talk to the detective, don't you think?
Yes, you're right.
Hope I'm just imagining it, but I wouldn't say he looks pleased to see us at all. Could we trouble you? What do you think?
Lovely weather, isn't it?
What's the weather got to do with anything? Listen to me, you young Japanese upstart. So flippery about the weather doesn't get every English gent eating out of your hand, you know.
Sato-san told me it was foolproof.
I'm a busy man, a very busy man. There's a crime scene to investigate, but I'm here having to give the likes of you a talking to.
Oh, I'm ever so sorry.
Oh, can you imagine what the other officers there will be saying? Haven't seen Gregson anywhere, have you? No, he's too busy with the bigwigs these days. And all because there's some bumpkin who's here on a jaunt from a country I've never even heard of. Hear that ripping sound? That's my reputation at the yard going to tatters.
There's no need to rip us apart as well. I don't believe we've been introduced. This is Mr. Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a defense lawyer. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Sue.
Huh?
It's lovely weather we're having today, isn't it?
It is unseasonably fine, I grant you. London winters don't see a lot of sunshine.
Unbelievable. How did she pull that off?
So, Lord Stronghorn asked me to fill you in on the case. The name's Tobias Gregson. Inspector Gregson to you. I'm from Scotland Yard.
Gregson? Inspector Gregson? What's the matter with Sato-san?
Does this detective's name mean something to her?
Inspector, are you perhaps... me, Inspector Gregson?
You're acting like you know this man, Mr. Sato. He's a London detective.
Oh, I do know him. Very well, in fact.
Very well.
Yes, he features prominently in the adventures of Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, in that publication. What's it called again? Randist Magazine?
That's right. Inspector Gregson and Mr. Holmes enjoy a wonderfully friendly rivalry.
Blech. Really? You rival the great Mr. Holmes? It's incredible. Oh, well, I don't know about that. Mr. Holmes isn't a professional like myself, of course, but he does come up with the goods from time to time.
Mr. Holmes is equally complimentary about you, Inspector, isn't he? You've earned his highest praise. Gregson is the pick of a bad lot of all the yard. Gregson is the pick of a bad lot of all the Scotland Yarders. Those were his own words.
That's his highest praise?
Well, Mr. Holmes isn't particularly known for giving compliments, you see.
No, that he is not. Thanks to that magazine, my name's known all over London town now. That's great, isn't it? I have to admit that, to start with, I was a little, well, flattered by all the attention. Everyone wanted to shake my hand, and my reputation at the yard went through the roof. Well, that's wonderful. No, it is not. There's nothing more sinister than the man on the street. People are always looking at me now. They're whispering rumours about me under their breath, I'm sure. Rumours?
Are you quite sure?
It's changed since he started appearing in those stories. Fame's gone to his head. Stuff like that.
Gosh, do you really think people are saying such mean-spirited things about you?
Like I said, they whisper, so I can't catch exactly what they're saying. But I know what folks are like. What folk are like. Oh, I'm sure that's what they're saying. As sure as eggs is eggs. I get the feeling this detective could be very hard work.
Oh dear, perhaps a sudden rise to fame does change people.
So, about the case that the Lord Chief Justice mentioned before. Nothing to tell, really. As far as we're concerned at the yard, it couldn't be simpler.
Oh dear, that probably means that as far as we're concerned as lawyers, it couldn't be more complicated.
I wish I were wrong about that, but I have a nasty feeling, alright. A young woman was walking along the pavement on Briar Road when she was stabbed from behind. Fortunately, it wasn't fatal, but she's still laid up in the hospital unconscious.
That's despicable. What sort of coward would attack the poor woman from behind?
I suppose you would have finished whoever it was off with a Cesato takedown, would you?
That is neither here nor there, Mr. Naruhodo.
Brace yourself, Ryunosuke. You've angered her now. Anyway, after something of a whirlwind investigation, the criminal was arrested. He barely had time for a cup of tea after the incident took place, to be honest. So, there must have been something left at the scene that led you directly to the culprit.
Or perhaps a reliable witness who recognized the person in question.
Let me stop you right there. You're wasting your time on this one. Sorry? There's nothing you can do. There's no way to help the bloke now. Why ever not? Simple. The prosecutor that's been assigned to the trial tomorrow is Lord Baroque Van Zeeks. No! Sounds like you've heard of him then.
Oh yes, we are very familiar with Lord Van Zieks. Believed to be the harbinger of death itself.
The Reaper of the Bailey. Lord Barcourt. Lord Barak Van Zieks. There. We faced in court only yesterday.
Mr. McGilder told us about him before the trial, didn't he? When Van Zieks stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lamb. And in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned.
The Reaper of the Bailey nickname. I suppose he's out there because every defendant he advocates against is found guilty. Is that it?
Well, if that's the case, we should inform you, Inspector, that in yesterday's trial against Lord Van Zieks, Mr. Naruhodo secured a verdict of not guilty.
Huh. And more of it.
Oh, well, I think that means that even against the Reaper of the Bailey, it's not impossible to save the defendant.
No, you really don't have a clue, do you? What do you mean? What happened to that bloke in the end, eh? He's dead. Magnus McGildred came a cropper in that omnibus when it went up in flames. So you can't rightly say you saved the defendant, can you? What are you saying? Look, if Van Zieks could get the dirt to stick on everyone, he'd be a miracle worker. And that's not how it goes. He doesn't work miracles. He works magic. Black magic. I'd have a good long think about that if I were you.
Are we really supposed to believe that?
Right, well, I filled you in as requested and I'm very nearly out of chips. So I'll be headed back to the crime scene now. We're still carrying out a few investigations there.
It was Briar Road, you said, didn't you? Where the incident took place?
That's correct, man. And if you head over to the holding cells, you can meet the criminal himself.
You branded him a criminal already.
He's as good as. Shaking like a leaf in his cell he is. It'll give you a chuckle if nothing else. He's inmate 53. Speak to the jailer and he'll show you the way.
Inmate 53. Thank you. So there's no helping anyone against the Reaper of the Bailey, they say. Is something troubling you, Mr. Naruhodo? To tell the truth, when I recall the trial yesterday, I can't stop myself from shaking. The idea of facing the Reaper in court again is... Well, if you think it's too much for you, there's no shame in turning the case down. That takes courage too.
And if the man they've arrested is innocent, you could well imagine he would be shaking like a leaf in his cell. I for one wouldn't find the sight of that funny.
So...
If I'm honest, I'm still reeling from the shock of yesterday's events myself. I'm really not sure if I'll be able to help this man, whoever he is. But I'd like to try, so I think I'm going to make some inquiries. Will you help?
Did you really think you had to ask? After all, I am your judicial assistant.
Thank you. So then, shall we?
Yes, let's go.
Go to the prison first. So these are British prison cells.
Oh, they're ghastly. It feels just like a dungeon.
Yes, having experienced it in Japan myself, I can assure you that our wooden cells feel a lot cozier than these cold stone walls.
Oh, don't, Mr. Naruhodo. You're making it seem worse.
Apparently our client is in this cell here. It's so dark at the back there, I can't make him out. Wonder what he's like. Inmate 53, your legal representative is here to see you. Stop hiding at the back of the cell and show your face at once.
Am I a cat as yet with no name?
Calling me by a number it's utterly, unbelievably, unjustly unreasonable. I refuse to answer. I really wish I could see the person so I could put a voice to it, but...
Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think is going on here?
I have no idea, but I wasn't just hearing things, was I? That triad of complaints was in Japanese. Excuse me, but who... Shh. Quiet. No, that's wrong. They're all around, hiding. I know they are. Watching, listening, even now. I can sense it. Right, so could I ask you who exactly... There you are! You've come to curse me, haven't you? Don't try to hide it. You're a ghost. Ghost?
We mean you no harm, Prisoner-san. Are you Japanese by any chance?
This is... beyond my wildest dreams! Oh, forgive me for that outburst before. I'm so sorry. Oh, it's fine. We were just a little surprised, that's all. Imagine it! It's been 12 long months since I left my hometown, and here I am, in a frightful fix in a foreign land. So hearing the sweet, sentimental tones of a compatriot's voice here in this damp, dark hellhole was a most monumentally moving moment. Who could have guessed this new client, Lord Strongyard assigned to us, would turn out to be fellow Japanese. What compassion my fellow countrymen show, to dispatch a first-class lawyer all the way from Japan to defend a mere foreign student. Noble, nurturing, never-failing Nippon. A first-class lawyer? Oh dear, I think there's been something of a misunderstanding here.
I wonder, would you be so kind as to tell us what's happened? Why you've been detained as a suspect, for example?
Yes, I can, I will. Shan't stay sullen and silent.
I'm not quite sure I understand what he means, but he seems happy.
Yes, he does. I just hope he actually has a good reason to be. Thank you for your cooperation. I am a lawyer, as you said. My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo.
And I am Naruhodo-san's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba.
I am a visiting student sent here by our government. Notoriously named Natsume. Soseki Natsume. So Seki Natsume-san? What an unusual name.
Oh, call me Soseki, please. I'm a poet, you see. A writer of haiku. It's something of a nom de plume.
A nom de plume? You mean an alias?
That's right, Naruto-san.
No! Don't be so prosaic. It's much more refined than that.
Haiku. It really reminds me of home.
Did I hear you say that you were a visiting student sent over here by the government?
Yes, that's right. A year ago I was told to go and study English. First I had to suffer that misery, and now this. It's beyond the pale.
Suffer that misery. Did you not want to study here?
No, I mean, I had an interest in Great Britain for some years, of course.
Oh,
But just because the government tells you to do something, does it mean you can do it? No.
What do you mean?
If they told me to study English literature, that I could have understood. That's my field. But no, they told me to study the English language. Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly unreasonable.
I see.
Only the other day I was told to send a report about my first year. I tendered a blank piece of paper. Wise words on white washi.
You must be a man of great standing.
Oh yes, so I'm often told.
And often like to be told, it seems.
Could you perhaps tell us exactly why you've been arrested, Soseki-san?
I didn't do it. I didn't commit that atrocious murder.
Murder?
Oh, no, it's all right. The woman didn't actually die, did she? But she was stabbed with a knife right before my eyes.
Before your eyes? You mean you saw the attacker?
I didn't see anyone.
What?
If I'd seen the person who did it, do you think I'd be locked up in here?
Oh dear, it seems this case is becoming rather complicated.
Why me? Why me? Why did that silly woman have to be stabbed in front of me? It's the curse of London. It's incredibly, inexcusably, irritatingly inconvenient.
So, Soseki-san was there at the scene, but he didn't see the attacker.
It's vital that we find out more clues about the case.
It was an accursed evening, just after the snow had started to clear and heavy with fog. I'd been to the bookshop to buy some books, and I was on my way back to my accursed lodgings.
Sure the bookshop wasn't a curse too?
As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold hard slabs of stone at my feet.
How terrible.
I called out to the woman, but she didn't move. It was like a ghostly, ghoulish, grim graveyard.
Slight exaggeration there, perhaps.
I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran as fast as my legs would carry me back to my accursed lodgings.
That's not good.
They'll say it was shameful, I know, to run away like that.
Tell me, Sasaki-san, was the victim an acquaintance of yours?
Interruptions.
Don't be ridiculous. Do you think I know any of these fair-haired English, and a young woman at that? I'm diffident, shy, timid, unsure. I can't talk to people.
I see. A young woman unknown to Sasaki-san. And at the time it happened, who else did you see nearby? Did anybody pass you?
Regrettably, apart from myself and the woman, I didn't see a soul.
No one. Oh, great.
So, the victim was unknown to you, and there was nobody else on the street at the time. That creates something of a conundrum, doesn't it?
What conundrum? What do you mean, Sasato-san? What's the conundrum?
Well, if what Sasaki-san has just told us is true, there's something I can't explain. It says that he didn't know the victim, and that there was no one else at the scene. Then he apparently fled without having been seen.
I did.
But if that's the case, surely this man has to be the culprit.
You! What did you just say?
Nothing. I didn't say anything. Perhaps I thought that a little loudly.
Actually, that's not what was troubling me. What I was thinking was, how did Sasaki-san actually come to be arrested?
Sorry?
He didn't touch the victim, and there was nobody at the scene to see him. So how did the police ever discover that he was there in the first place?
Oh yes, she's right.
It was him. That accursed great detective. He led the police to me. Of all the bad luck.
Cursed? Great detective? Could it be?
I shall never forget that man's name as long as I live. With his haughty laugh and his self-proclaimed greatness. Brash, big-headed, busybody. May you be cursed until the end of your days, Hairlock Sholmes.
I knew it.
Mr. Sholmes?
I didn't expect to hear that name from this man's lips, but that's for sure.
It was the morning after that nightmare had unfolded on the pavement before me. I was gnawing on a sliver of hard cheese when some men suddenly burst in through the door. They started shouting at me, "This is the police, put the weapon down." Yes, it was a thin sliver, and yes, it was hard, but I wasn't eating a weapon. Disgusting, dietary, discrimination devils.
You clearly had a trying morning yesterday.
And there he was, in the middle of all the policemen, grinning like a Cheshire cat. That Hairlock Sholmes.
It's essentially just Herlock Sholmes. He's English.
I've since found out that he's a famous name and detection here in London.
Yes, the great detective is really well known.
And his overly sharp mind managed to deduce my whereabouts, apparently. He thinks I'm a knife-wielding madman. Me! This meek, stooped kidding of a man.
I wonder what great deduction process led him to his conclusion this time.
Do you mean to say that Mr. Sholmes' deduction was the only reason the police arrested you? That would be really most unreasonable.
Well, the thing is, I was thrown into a panic when they barged their way in.
Of course you were. That's only natural.
I was terrified and trembling, and they kept throwing question after question at me in impossible English. English foreign flimflammery.
Well, we are in England. You can't really blame them for questioning you in English.
Good point, good point. But my mind went blank. I knew I had to answer, but I didn't know what to say. So I just kept repeating things like, yes, I do, and I'm fine. The next thing I knew, I was in manacles, and before I knew it, I was thrown in the air.
Oh dear, I'm afraid that's hardly surprising.
I'm fine. He's not fine now.
Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire.
Oh, you can just call me Naruhodo. When we're speaking English, a simple mister is more than enough.
Oh, yes, all right. Yes, they've really got to me. This country is poisoning my mind. But please, I beg you to defend me in court tomorrow. You can tell them what really happened. You'll do it, won't you?
Well,
Why? Why is it so hard to say yes to me?
the thing is, I'm just a student like yourself, on a study tour.
A student?
I have defended a case in the Old Bailey, only the one though. At this moment in time, I really don't know what I'm supposed to believe in. I'm confused about what justice in this country even means.
Oh, Naruhodo-san.
I'm not even the foreign student who was supposed to be here. I'm a sort of locum lawyer, I suppose.
But that armband, that's the mark of a defense lawyer from our great empire.
It's a keepsake from the man who should have been here. He was my best friend.
A keepsake? I know exactly what they're saying about me.
Oh, who do you mean?
The lawyers, all the British defense lawyers, they won't defend me.
Goodness, why? Why do you say that?
For the same reason as you noted before. When it happened, I was only the victim of myself around, and I ran away from the scene of the crime. I'm not a fool. I know it looks as though I must be the culprit.
It must be very hard for you, Saseki-san.
And anyway, I'm a student from overseas. I'm just a foreign nobody to them, someone not to be trusted. I heard them opening laughing about me before, in my earshot, without any compunction at all. Any trial for this man would be a waste of time, they said. And, of course, the foreigner did it. They even had the gall to say, the man doesn't understand half of what's being said anyway.
That's awful.
They're wrong. I've studied more English than half the policemen out there on the streets. I've travelled halfway around the world to learn about these people's country and its great history. But no one here wants to listen to a man with a strange accent. They all ain't me. So, at the very least, I'd like to entrust my fate to someone who can listen to me in my native tongue. You could do it, couldn't you? When I look into your eyes, I can see it. I can see what you've been through.
Saseki-san, it's just that... Give me a little time, please.
Hmm?
I'll do what I can, for the time being.
What do you mean?
We shall investigate the case as thoroughly as possible. If we can find some clues, it will give us a much better chance, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, thank you. I'll be here, all alone, waiting for you. Locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire.
We should be going, Naruhodo-san. We have a case to prepare for.
So this is where it happened. Briar Road.
Look, Mr. Naruhodo. Look at that regulation metal helmet. It's unmistakable. The men of Scotland Yard are here. They're investigating as we speak.
That is their job, you know.
But Mr. Naruhodo, to see one with my own eyes. They're often depicted in the adventures of Sherlock Holmes, but I never dreamt that I'd ever come this close to a real Bobby's helmet.
What? The helmet?
Of course. I have to try one on one day.
I hope your happy dreams come true.
What's the Japanese delegation doing here?
Oh, Inspector Gregson.
This isn't on the tourist trail, as I'm fairly sure you're well aware.
Yes, of course. We're here to investigate.
So you've been to the holding cells then. What do you make of the criminal?
He's not a criminal, as you put it, Inspector. He's a suspect.
I'll see about that. You Japanese like to stick together, I suppose. Well, do what you will. It doesn't bother me. The bloke's in court tomorrow, whatever happens, and the verdict's a foregone conclusion.
A stone cold air of rejection.
Take heart. London at this time of year is full of stone cold air.
That makes it worse somehow.
Tell me about Scotland Yard, Inspector. Ever since I read about it in the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I've been fascinated by the place.
The Yard is the most sophisticated policing organisation you'll find anywhere in the world, ma'am.
Oh, and you know I've always dreamt of wearing a real Bobby's helmet.
Does make them look the part, seeing that policeman there with his helmet on. You certainly get the sense that this is a man who will take no nonsense in his duty of protecting the city.
Oh yes, doesn't he look wonderful?
Well, being a London Bobby is hard going, I can tell you.
Oh really?
First thing in the morning, you know what he does? Goes round and rouses all the labourers on his beat so they can get off to work.
What? He wakes people up?
Yep, raps on their windows with a long pole. Did it myself going back a bit.
I had no idea.
Well, the Bobby works for the people in the town. It's just another one of his duties. After that, he starts tirelessly patrolling the streets all day long. He has to cover 20 miles a day. That's the regulation distance.
Can't really imagine how far that is. It sounds like a long way.
Let me see. 20 miles. That's approximately the distance from Tokyo to Yokohama.
On foot? That's definitely taking things a step too far. Now, when it gets dark, of course, he has the important job of lighting all the gas street lamps.
Oh my.
I suppose in between all these duties, bobbies are expected to investigate cases as well.
And chase after criminals trying to evade the law.
I'm not sure you can call it in between exactly. More alongside, but yes. They're expected to handle those jobs as well. We do have men keeling over from time to time, I admit.
I'd always dreamt of wearing one of those helmets, as I said. But it's with a heavy heart that I shall have to relinquish that dream to you, Mr. Naruto.
Your heavy heart will be my heavy head if you do. It happened at around 5 in the evening 2 days ago, just here on that open bit of pavement. The victim, a young woman, was stabbed with a blade from behind.
Is it right that the lady is still unconscious now? You mentioned that she's being treated in the hospital.
I never said she was a lady. Truth is, unless she comes round pretty smartish, we won't be able to find out much about her at all.
I suppose that means I haven't been able to take a statement from her, of course.
Well, here's a map of the local area I happen to have on me. You can take it if you want.
Really? Are you sure?
It's our policy to give lawyers defending the suspect odd bits of information. The odd bit of information to go on.
Haven't actually accepted the job yet, but still. Thank you, Inspector. We gratefully accept.
Anyway, as far as we know, there was no one else on the scene other than the victim and your fellow countryman. So, who did it, do you think? Not much of a head-scratcher, is it?
I know Mr. Natsumo is also claiming not to have seen anyone else around, but... just because he didn't see anyone. It doesn't mean we can be sure that nobody else was present.
Well, I'm sorry to have to tell you, but we most certainly can be sure.
Oh.
Because, ma'am, the precise moment of the stabbing didn't go unnoticed. What? We have 2 very reliable witnesses, no less. It was a typical foggy London day, and your client obviously didn't see them.
There were witnesses now? Who are these witnesses, Inspector?
My fellow and his wife, and the man's one of the most reliable and respected citizens in all London. He's a copper from Scotland Yard.
Policeman? That might change things. And this policeman just happened to be there at the exact moment the woman was attacked?
Nothing peculiar about that, ma'am. Part and parcel of being a bobby. Catching them banging the act and all that.
Do you think it might be possible for us to ask that policeman a few questions?
That'll be my guest. You can ask him what you like. In court tomorrow.
Oh.
I've no doubt he'll be summoned as a witness. So that'll give you something to look forward to.
That's that then. He's got no intention of letting us meet the man beforehand, it seems. Policeman witnessed the incident. As your judicial assistant, I must warn you that this could make our job very difficult indeed.
Yes, as a non-judicial assistant, I could have warned me of that too.
Oh yes, one more thing, Inspector.
What?
The person who led you to the suspect. I hear that was Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
What are you bringing up him for?
Was that something I said? The colour has drained from his cheeks.
Who did you hear that name from? Oh, well, it was Mr. Natsume who mentioned it. He said that Mr. Sholmes was with the police when they entered his lodgings. I'm sure it was the result of one of Mr. Sholmes' inspirational great deductions.
Fiddle faddle.
Huh?
The man's an amateur, and I'm getting sick and tired of him showing his mug everywhere. I don't know where he gets his information from, but he turns up at the scene of the crime, wanders around spouting incomprehensible rubbish, and before you know it, he claims to have solved the case.
Yes, he's quite astounding, isn't he?
He is a great help to Scotland Yard, though, isn't he?
Gibble gabble.
Huh.
Ever seen this before?
Oh, yes, that's Randall's magazine.
The wonderful publication in which the adventures of Sherlock Holmes appears.
Yes, well, that wonderful publication, as you put it, sees fit to include several of the Yard's detectives in its stories. And this so-called great detective makes a mockery of all of us. If you ask anyone at the Yard, it's a misadventure to be included in any Sherlock Holmes tale at all.
Well, I suppose there is an element of that.
We work our socks off, every one of us, only to be frumped by the public thanks to that obnoxious detective. The man's as dangerous to us as Scotland Yard as he is to all our criminals.
That can't really be true, can it, Inspector?
Clearly, the great detective and police have a complex relationship.
That twitchy Japanese bloke goes on trial tomorrow. Are you going to defend him or not?
Well,
Makes no difference to me, but I will just say this. No London lawyer worth his salt will touch that case with a barge pole.
because the prosecution is being handled by the Reaper of the Bailey, you mean?
There's no way to save the man now. It's a waste of time trying. It is all a bit strange, though.
Sorry?
The Reaper. He hasn't appeared in court once for a good few years now.
Yes, we did hear something to that effect.
And the only people he usually bothers with are the real scum. The master criminals, the violent ones.
Master criminals?
The violent ones?
That's right, he handpicks his victims. Only deals with those guaranteed to go for the gallows for their sins.
But Mr. Natsume wouldn't hang for what he's accused of, surely?
That's just my point, sunshine. Yes, the young woman was stabbed, but it didn't kill her. Couldn't even say the intent was there. So this isn't the sort of case I'd be expecting the Reaper to want to sink his teeth into, for want of a better phrase.
It's not exactly a minor infraction, is it?
No, there's got to be more to it. Some reason he's taken an interest.
Really? What sort of reason, Inspector?
You think I can tell what's going on inside the head of that Lord of Darkness? You'll have to ask him yourself at tomorrow's trial.
I'm really going to have to face the Reaper again. Lord of Darkness, as he puts it. Well, I don't think we're going to get any more useful information out of the detective.
Mr. Naruhodo, can I make a suggestion?
Oh, yes, what is it?
Well, it seems to me that we must speak with him about this.
By him, do you mean Mr. Sholmes?
Yes, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, exactly.
Look at those shining eyes. You can't wait, can you? Well, Mr. Natsumi did blame Mr. Sholmes for all of this, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He really did. Which makes him an involved party in the case. Are you just going to ignore that? I hope not. I assure you, it's not simply my selfish desire to meet with Mr. Sholmes again.
Trouble is, you have no idea of the man's address, even.
It's Baker Street.
How do you know that?
It's in the stories, of course. 221B Baker Street, the most famous address in the world.
Oh, I see. Well, there's nothing to stop us from going, I suppose. Better try to find our way there before Sasado-san gets any more excited and unpredictable.
Hurrah! I'll summon a carriage.
So we're to have a reunion already. With the great detective Mr. Sherlock Sholmes. Eh? Have a look around later.
Thank you very much. It's just up there overlooking the street. Good day.
Thanks again. This is it. The residence of Mr. Sherlock Sholmes.
And this is where the great detective makes his living. Feels surreal to be here somehow. Is it as described in the stories, Mr. Sado? Sasado-san?
Many famous cases have been solved in this very room.
Oh, I suppose they must have been, yes. I never read the story, so it's hard to get quite as excited about it as she seems to be.
The detective chases the villain relentlessly as he disappears into the fog down an unlit London street. Oh, the thrill of it, the romanticism. Can't you feel your heart thumping in your chest? Can't you, Mr. Naruhodo?
Oh, I suppose I can, yes.
So, if you don't mind, I'll just stand here and soak up the atmosphere for a while longer.
Please, don't mind me. She's obsessed. Well, looks like our detective friend isn't home at present. Excuse me, is anybody home? Oh, do we have a visitor?
Oh, do we have a visitor? Hello. Is it a big new case for Mr. Sholmes?
Hello? Wait. Aren't you...
Oh, how rude of me. I'll go and make some tea at once.
Sure it's the same girl. Mrs. Satu, did you see the girl who was just here?
Oh yes, isn't it truly extraordinary? To think that the King of Bohemia came to this very room to ask Mr. Sholmes to take on his case.
The King of Bohemia?
King Wilhelm Gottsreich Sigismund von Ormenstein, of course.
Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Forget the adventures of Herlock Sholmes for a moment and look over there.
The tea is brewed, and I have a freshly baked cake as well. It's you!
I knew it. Sato-san recognizes her too.
There you are. I'm taking that with you as well. I was looking forward to the trial run of my experimental smoke grenade launcher. Oh, good day to you. I'm, well, the inventor, I suppose, of that machine.
It's the girl who turned up at the end of Mr. McGilded's trial in the defendant's antechamber.
I've never met a lawyer from the Far East before. Or you, having to get straight to work when you've only just arrived in London.
Oh, yes, it was challenging.
Well, try the tea. It's my special blend, you know.
Oh, thank you. Is tea supposed to look that colour?
Oh my, what a fragrant yet mellow flavour. Hurrah! It's a winner. I tried blending different leaves designed to alleviate fatigue, you see. You must be exhausted after your long voyage here, and you have another trickish trial tomorrow. Oh, and you want to defend a Japanese man. I do wish you lots of luck. Did Mr. Sholmes tell you about us by any chance? Oh, you know Hurley, do you?
Early? Mr. Sholmes to you, surely?
Mr. Sholmes was a fellow passenger on the boat that brought us to Great Britain, you see. Was he really? Well, I had no idea. I'm afraid Hurley's out on an errand again today, even though he's just returned from overseas.
Oh, wait a minute. We met this girl for the first time ever yesterday, after the trial, and only briefly at that. What on earth does she know so much about us? Did she deduce all those things, do you think?
And perhaps more to the point, why is she here at Mr. Sholmes' suite? Oh, silly me. I haven't introduced myself, have I? It's a great pleasure to meet you both. My name is Iris Wilson. I live here together with Hurley.
Iris, is it? What a lovely name.
What?
What's the matter?
No, wait, this can't be. Did you say that your name is Wilson?
What's the matter with Sato-san? Why is she so flustered all of a sudden?
Yes, that's right. And what are your names?
Oh, I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a lawyer from Japan.
Oh, sorry. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba. It's wonderful to meet you. Lovely. Susie and Runo. Got it. Susie.
And Runo? There's more to this girl than meets the eye. There's so many questions for her, I don't know where to start.
Yes, and so do I.
Someone's gonna hurt my voice. It was you that we ran into yesterday, wasn't it? At the Old Bailey?
Yes, that's right. You were ever so helpful. Thank you so much. Oh no, not at all. I'm so sorry we couldn't have been more welcoming.
Well, at the time, we did have a rather large gun pointed at us.
Like this? Thinking back now, you left with Miss Lestrade in tow, didn't you?
Oh yes, that awkward witness, Junior Lestrade.
Oh, Ginny. Yes, she's a professional pickpocket.
So we found out.
It was very naughty of her to pinch my invention like that.
Are you referring to that trial-disrupting gun-like contraption?
Exactly. So I followed her, you see, to get it back. Perhaps I should think about fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my inventions.
This girl is dangerous.
Anyway, I brought Ginny back here after that, so she could apologize to my trusty technician.
Sorry, your technician?
Hurley, of course, silly. Hurley? Yes, Herlock Sholmes. We live here together.
I had no idea the great detective had such an interesting young daughter.
Daughter? Not likely.
What?
I wouldn't call him Hurley if he was my father, would I? Well then, what is your relationship with Mr. Sholmes? Well, I expect you found out that lodgings of any kind in London are very expensive. So the solution is to share the cost with a partner, a roommate.
Your roommates?
I hope you don't mind me asking, Iris, but how old are you? 10, at least. 10, at least this year.
I'm in trouble doing a voice. Well, what of your mother and father?
Oh no, they're not around.
Oh, I see. Wonder what the story is there.
Oh yes, there's something I must ask you. Of course. Go ahead, Susie. I am a very great fan of the adventures of Herlock Sholmes and... Oh, you have a copy of Randall's magazine. Yes, I read every issue. It's delivered all the way to Japan on a ship. Oh, this is so exciting. My stories are being read on the other side of the world.
My stories?
That's right. Ellie is always solving such amazing cases, you see, and he tells me all about them. They really are quite fascinating. It would be such a shame if I was the only one who ever heard them, don't you think? Goodness. Last night he was telling me all about a new case he just solved on a steamship travelling from a faraway land. So I was just in the middle of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came. So you are the author? Yes, I'll let you in on a secret if you like. I'm going to call this latest adventure The Speckled Band.
Speckled Band. That's certainly very familiar.
Of course, they always change one or two details in the stories here and there. This time, I had the idea of making a venomous snake be the cause of all the trouble.
Oh, that was Mr. Sholmes' first thought as well, actually.
Yes, and of course I know that a snake might not be a credible fit for the facts of the case exactly, but... it's a story. Some poetic license is justified to make it more thrilling, I think. Don't you? So, do you mean to say... are the stories about Mr. Sholmes that are published in Randall's magazine? One written by me, yes, on my wonderful and very modern typewriter. But all the stories I've ever read. are written by a doctor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson.
Sato-san's getting more and more worked up.
Ah, yes, that's me. I mean, my name really is Wilson. But what about the doctor of medicine part? That's all true too. I am a doctor of medicine.
No. At 10 years old?
At 10 years old.
Well, that's quite incredible.
But... Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman. Ah, yes. I did alter the setting slightly, for the stories to be more compelling. Oh. Well, it sounds a little strange, doesn't it? A great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow. I suppose it does, yes.
Poor Sato-san. She looks like her whole world just fallen apart. I need a minute. I chose the wrong voice for her. I really did. Mech. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty good. The number on my voice. About before.
Yes. What's on your mind, Bruno? Do tell me.
How did you know that I'm a lawyer? We just arrived in London. I mean...
Yes. Oh, and that we have a difficult trial tomorrow. How did you know all of that? Oh, that's what you mean. Please, tell us how you did it. Explain every detail. Of course, I'd be delighted, although there's really no mystery. Now, let's begin. Iris Wilson is proud to present a Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. First of all, I knew already that you were a lawyer, Bruno. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey in the defendant's antechamber.
But you also said we'd only just arrived in London. How did you know that?
Observed a passport and travel ticket protruding from your breast pocket.
Oh,
So I was reasonably confident that you must have only just arrived in the country. And on top of that, you accepted a case against that particular prosecutor, telling me you were unaware of London's court affairs.
yeah, the Reaper of the Bailey. I walked right into that one, didn't I?
Then I noticed the red ink stamp on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet with a suspect, weren't you? Earlier today. They use those stamps to keep a close eye on comings and goings, you see. I didn't realize. And a red stamp is only used for people visiting foreign inmates. So that told me that even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial of Magnus McGilded, the two of you had already had cause to visit a foreign inmate in a local prison. However, neither of you was wearing a particularly sad expression on your face, so I concluded that the prisoner was unlikely to be a friend or a relative. That led me to believe that you must have accepted a new case.
I see.
But how could you have known that the trial is tomorrow? Well, having barely been home a few hours yesterday, Hurley solved yet another case. It obviously amused him. He told me that he caught a Japanese man who was bawling and trembling.
Japanese man. Well, clearly that must have been...
Mr. Natsume. Now, Luna has that fancy Japanese sword. And I think your outfit is called a kimono, isn't it, Susie? Well, anyway, it was clear to me that you both came from Japan yourself. So I put two and two together and decided you must be defending the Japanese man Hurley caught. There was only one conclusion those facts could lead me to. You both came here to ask Hurley about the case. There's a note on the mantelpiece that says the man's trial will be tomorrow. Hurley is always stabbing his notes with a knife, you know. He is silly. And that's all there was to it, really. Thank you for listening. I am Iris Wilson, and that was one of my great deductions. Well, was it a winner? Were my deductions correct?
They were spot on.
That was amazing, Iris. Truly a great deduction. You even managed to ascertain something of Mr. Sholmes' delivery. Oh well, I was just copying Hurley's style for that. This is really very good news. You can tell us all about the case involving the Japanese man. You will, won't you, Iris? Please?
So, yesterday, Mr. Sholmes apprehended a Japanese man, you were saying?
Yes. Hurley just arrived back in London after his sea voyage. But the police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene.
The great detective is a popular man, it seems.
Apparently a woman was stabbed on a quiet street somewhere in town. There were witnesses who had seen a short, shifty-looking, stooped man running away from the scene. A short, shifty-looking, stooped man. Mr. Natsume
beyond any doubt. Saseki-san said he didn't see anybody else on the street at all. It seems there were witnesses after all.
Hurley used his great detective powers to determine the man's address. There was a lodging room very nearby. He went directly there with the police. And what did they find? A short, shifty-looking stoop man shivering in fear.
Mr. Sholmes' great deduction certainly hit the mark that time.
Of course it did. No. Of course it did. He's a great detective.
Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Surely tomorrow is too soon for the trial, isn't it?
Definitely. We have no time to investigate properly. Hurley said that London is rife with crime.
Oh,
Scotland Yard is doing its best, but they can't stay on top of it apparently. Oh dear, I hadn't realised the situation was so dire. That's why they can't afford to spend too much time investigating cases and trying the criminals in court. Staff and money are both short. Crimes are usually pinned on the first suspicious person. That's terrible. I suppose it's the harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system.
I suppose it is. But in that case, I don't hold out much hope for Saseki-san. Thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. Just going to make a quick save. This has been very informative.
Oh, you're most welcome. I've had so much fun.
Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is at the moment? As you guess, we'd like to ask him some questions about this case as well.
Oh well. I expect Hurley is still investigating the scene.
Of the case involving Mr. Natsume, you mean?
Yes, Mr. Natsume. Hurley said he was going to the man's lodgings. If you leave now, you'll probably catch him there.
Iris, do you know where those lodgings are?
Well, I imagine the police are still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Did you happen to come across a detective by the name of Gregson when you were there?
Yes, we know Inspector Gregson.
Oh, goody. In that case, give Gregsy this from me, would you? If you do that, I'm sure he'll tell you what you want to know.
What is this?
A 5-shilling piece and a postcard, it seems. It reads, "Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem." Gosh, this will make the inspector help us, will it?
Oh, thank you, Iris. We'll give it a try.
Good luck then. I'm going to turn to writing my manuscript, A Speckled Band. And I'll be making more special blends of tea, so come back soon, soon. We'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris. Well, Mr. Narroder, it's back to the scene of the crime.
So, somewhat dubious that they would exert any influence over the men of Scotland Yard at all. We headed back to the scene with Iris's curious note and one of the world's heaviest silver coins in hand. Oh, is that it? Right. I didn't realise I was that close. Okay. That scene very much ruined my voice. A bit. I really felt it going there at the end. So, that will of course be all for now. I'll be back in about an hour after I've had a cup of tea and something to eat. And also restarted my computer before I stream Xenoblade. That crash yesterday was annoying. And I'll try to go extra long today to make up for the lost time. I do feel myself falling further and further behind, considering everything I've got to do, since I want to 100% it, like an idiot. But anyway, that then will be all for now, and I shall be back later on. Bye.